black-eyed adults. What's up? What's going on with that? Okay. Have they grown up? Do black-eyed children grow up? Very weird, right? So, black-eyed people, if you aren't aware of black-eyed children or black-eyed people, um, or BEK, some people call them, or young people call them, I guess. They're children with eyes that are solid black with no differentiation between the scleria, pupil, or iris. And they're occasionally reported to have blue or a bluish tinted skin, kind of like a corpse. Some do, some don't. Those who reported encounters with them often feel like the children were somehow supernatural or extremely dangerous, though even though they got those feelings, they couldn't tell why. Often they can be seen playing games and singing in the nursery, singing nursery songs, um, like Old Man Long Legs or He Jumped into a Bramble Bush. They're usually near abandoned or deserted areas. Sometimes the reports talk of them appearing at one's doorstep, usually alone or in a pair. They appear to be unusually confident, yet shy children who avoid your gaze and look down, hiding their eyes, but speaking with elegance far beyond their apparent age. Often using the mannerisms and speech patterns of an adult, they occasionally even possess the voice of an adult too. They will usually attempt to talk the victim into allow them entry into their home, to use their telephone, or to be safe from some unspecific danger. Occasionally, when seen outside the home, they will immediately stop their play and stare at you, or if possible, approach you, asking you for a place to stay, or trying to talk to you into giving them a ride home. Often, people just agree um, to the request against their better judgment. Like you get a feeling of something's wrong, something's not right. That red flag goes up, and you're like, I don't know about this. Um, so, against, even though the request will seem vaguely unsettling without realizing why it is, you never know why you get that feeling. Should you discover that their eyes are completely black, the children become very angry and insistent on you complying with their demands. Some people who have encountered black-eyed kids feel that the children may have been using some form of low-level mind control to get you to comply with them. Experiences involving the black-eyed children generally do not explain the cause of the children's eyes color or the origins of the children themselves. Sometimes thought to be spirits of lost or murdered children, the black-eyed kids are thought to be harbingers of ill will or personal doom. The encounters frequently emphasize that the children must voluntarily admit or be invited into the house, kind of like vampires. You got to invite them in the house, right? Or the car, or wherever you are. And in this way are reminiscent of some, like I said, vampire legends. However, it's unspecific what will happen if you comply with their demands, as no reports of the black-eyed kids have ever included that happening, possibly indicating the death of those that comply. Now, there is black-eyed kids of Iroquois Indian legends, um, and they're called Otcon or Okan. I'm not sure exactly how you say it, but what an Otcon is a broad term for a negative energy. Okay, and they even like if kids were born with black eyes in the you know they would kill them within 1 or 2 days. Um, so, anyways, some historical accounts have stated that the Mohawks of Mohawk Valley believe strongly in the existence of witchcraft, and those who wielded the negative power of Atkon, who were often said to be influenced by the evil-minded one. Now, the evil-minded one was this dark archetype like Satan, um, who some said that he took form in a reptilian man, snake man. It was said that the evil-minded one was trying to manifest itself in human form and often tried mating with unsuspected Iroquois women. The result of this union was a possessed offspring with black eyes and pale, chalky skin. A black-eyed infant was usually killed at birth by tribal elders and burned to prevent resurrection. These black-eyed kids, or BEKs, are that's what they're called in modern times, often never live past a day or two after they open the eyes. Other times, unlucky Iroquois children who found themselves lost or alone in the woods were easy targets for the evil-minded one. To project Atkon into children would wander from the tribe and come back empty, with black eyes replacing their once normal eyes. It was said that the evil-minded one had stolen their orenda, which is good energy, and replaced it with Atkon, and they were now his loyal servants, doing as bidden and infecting other children with Atkon. The black-eyed kids were said to be particularly acting weird, like repeating themselves frequently and paced around nervously. These evil black-eyed kids caused havoc amongst the tribes as their goal was to destroy it with the Atkon. So, with that being said, okay, Atkon people or Atkon possessed kids, I guess, were ferocious, mean, and often had a taste for human flesh. The folk we call the Mohawks refer to themselves as Kanehaka, which means people of flint or people to crystals. The name Mohawk is indeed a slur bestowed upon the Kanehaka. Sorry if there's any Mohawk tribe out there. By the northeastern rival tribes who told gullible white settlers of the Mohawks. The Mohawk name is said to be by some historians to mean people eaters, with a likely source that is tied to the legend of the black-eyed children. So with that being said, people are starting to see. Now, I looked it up. Most of the legends, besides the Indian tribes or the Native American tribes, came from the late 80s, or early 90s. Even some late 90s. People say the first story about black-eyed children was like 1998. But I did find some that were like from the 1980s. And there's also ones that they're telling it, but it came from the 1940s or 1950s. So, I mean, they've been around for a long time, but we never heard about black-eyed adults. And now I'm starting to hear about them. Why is that? Did these black-eyed children grow up, like I said? I mean, really, it's very odd. So I thought I'd read some stories that talk about black-eyed adults and how their demeanor is the same as the black-eyed children. So this one comes from, I got most of these from My Haunted Life. It says, the time I saw a black-eyed adult, I was at this hole-in-the-wall Mexican restaurant with my mom. It was also nighttime and cold, if I can remember correctly. We had pretty much finished our meal and was just waiting on our server to bring out a tab. My mom actually noticed this lady before I did. I wasn't really in a spot to catch a glimpse of her as she was behind me. My mom then became a little antsy moments later as this lady requested to switch tables. And this lady was completely on her own. She decided to sit in the booth next to a table that was to the left of me and would be my mom's right. The lady appeared to be in her mid late 40s, slightly overweight with kind of bushy hair. She kind of had the style of a school teacher, if you will. That's the best way I can describe it. My mom told me she looked to the left, and just as she did, the lady turned to her left, glancing at me. She turned her head both ways as she was judging to see if where she was now seated was okay. This lady didn't make me feel half as scared as the girl I discussed above did. Oh, and that's another story. I'm sorry. But I still feel like I needed to get out of that place. My mom and I quickly paid our tab and left quickly. So another story of the black-eyed adult was me and my sister went on a road trip a few months ago. We have recently heard about black-eyed kids, so we read stories for about 3 hours, which really freaked us out because that's what friends do. We like to freak each other out, and we don't want to be alone reading these stories, so why not read it with a friend, right? So the next day I was with a few of my friends. We drove down an alley to get a parking garage. And standing in the center of the alley was an old lady with white hair, wearing old fashioned white clothes. Even from a distance, I could see she was staring at me. As we got closer, I noticed her eyes were completely black. I started shaking, and I really didn't believe what I was seeing. I really thought that I was fabricating it in my mind because of having read about it just the night before. So I asked my friend in a shaky voice, "Does that lady have black eyes?" And he replied, "Dude, holy shit, what the fuck, man?" And his voice instantly became shaky. We turned around and went in the other entrance to the parking garage. When we walked by the alley again a minute later, she was still in the same spot. Every moment she was in sight, she was staring into my eyes. It was extremely unsettling, but nothing came of it. My friend wasn't just messing with me. We both saw her piercing black eyes. Glad I didn't have to talk to her. I was shaking enough as it was. She looked to be around 70 years old. Black-eyed senior citizen. Really odd experience. So yeah, I mean, if these are black-eyed children grown up, what are they still doing here? I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think they are? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below of what you think they are. Another story is so one day I was walking through a crowded sidewalk. I spotted this man with full black eyes in the middle of the crowd. I know that people can do this effect with contact lenses, and some people even have tattooed their eyes black. So it could be that. But the strange thing about this individual is that he was wearing a suit and tie. Just a regular guy walking amongst the crowd, tall suit and tie, nice combed hair and briefcase. Except there was no white in his eyes, just black. His eyes looked exactly just black, except a bit smaller. It was enough to make me stop and turn around and see him walk away. Part of me was afraid he would turn around and look back at me because there was something a bit scary about his whole figure. It was like 10 years ago, and I was in the 8th grade, but it still makes me wonder today. What do you all think? I don't see a guy in his 70s wearing contacts, especially those kind of contacts, because I've worn them before, and you can see out of them, but you can't see out of them. It's like a little bit blurry. Um, but yeah, a regular suit and tie and briefcase, like he was on his way to work. So, I mean, was that a separate entity? What do you guys think? Another one was I was riding the bus back home after work. It was early in the morning as I worked strange hours. Everything was normal but this trip until one man got in the bus. He was wearing a suit, weird, and had a briefcase, and I was just looking at him while I stared out the window and while he chewed his gum. And all of a sudden he turned and looked at me. His eyes were pitch black, just like the other people have described. My heart started beating like crazy. I was starting to panic and I had no idea why. I feared this guy. I had no reason to fear him. But then he grinned at me. I almost screamed. But instead I just got up, took the seat right behind the driver, and just sat there. I calmed down a bit after that, but I kept an eye on the guy. He ended up chatting with some girl that got on, and they were still talking when I got off. I have no idea what happened, but I'm starting to wonder after reading these accounts on your site. That might have been a dude with him grinning like that. To me, makes me think that was just somebody in contacts, but you never know. This encounter is called the Disappearing Black-Eyed Man, and what's really cool about this one is it's set in the 1950s, which is really cool because of the fact we really don't hear too many things about things that were set back there when it comes to black-eyed children or black-eyed adults. So this says, my late father-in-law told me about his incident with a black-eyed person. He was living in Nottingham, United Kingdom at the time. One night when everyone was in the house was asleep, my father heard a knock on the door and went to see who was there. He looked through the window and what he saw sent shivers up his spine. There was a dark figure standing at the front of the door, and he saw that it had no face. Looking at it, it was looking like into a pitch black hole. That's weird. My father could not move and stood very still, not knowing what to do. The figure knocked several times, and my father eventually answered the door. He opened it slowly, and to his surprise, he saw a man with a pale white face standing there. The man said nothing. He didn't even make a movement. It was my father who noticed his eyes. As soon as he seen the eyes, the figure disappeared. My father looked out the window after recovering from shock and saw it standing underneath the street light. It stood there for a few minutes and then vanished into thin air. This incident would have taken place in the 1950s. My father worked in England for 10 years and never had another occurrence like it. Has anyone else heard of this disappearing figure with black eyes? That's a little creepy. That's a little creepy. So what do you guys think black-eyed children are? Are they, some say that they're vampires. Some say that they're demons. What do you think they are? Let me know in the comments below, would you? And please, if you would, like, share, and subscribe this video. And stay tuned for my lives. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. You guys mean the world to me. And I hope you liked this video.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me.